June is a Pride Month, a month dedicated to celebrating the LGBTQ culture, raising awareness, and advocating for the rights of the LGBTQ community. Today, we are honored to welcome Mr. Bindu Madhav Khire to the Pune Times Mirror studio for our Mirror on Mirrored podcast. A trailblazing LGBTQ rights activist, author, and cultural advocate based in Pune, he is also the founder and director of Bindu Queer Rights Foundation. Without wasting much time, let me welcome Mr. Bindu Madhav Khire. Good afternoon, Binduji. So happy to have you with us today. Thank you for sparing time and coming and joining us in Mirror on Mirror.
Thank you for inviting me and thank you for the support for LGBT movement.
Thank you. It's pleasure is all ours. Uh, I would like to start with a very basic question first is what does LGBTQ actually stand for?
Yes, I think that's a good place to start because many people are not aware of this terminology. You see, the sexual and gender minorities clubbed together is what we term as LGBTIQ. L stands for lesbians, which means women who are sexually attracted only to women, emotionally and sexually attracted only to women. G is the term, G is for gay, and it is used for both men who love men as well as women who love women. So it could be used for lesbians also and as well as for gay men. B stands for bisexual, people who are emotionally and sexually interested in both men and women. T is for transgenders. Uh, it comprises of a community who is born of one anatomy, either male or female, but their gender identity and expression is of a different gender than the anatomy they have. So there is discordance between their anatomy and their gender expression, which is why they are called as transgender. I stands for intersex, people who are born with ambiguous reproductive systems, which is why it's difficult to label them as a boy or a girl because of this ambivalence. And Q means queer. Uh, Queer is used in different ways. One is someone who does not want to be tagged as LGBT but just wants to say that we do not belong to this heteronormative or binary framework. So they can say I'm queer, which means I'm not a heterosexual cisgendered person. Sometimes it's used as a short form. When I say Advait International Queer Film Festival, uh, it simply means it comprises of LGBTIQ instead of using these letters all the time. And sometimes people use it for political purposes also, to differentiate that they are different from the heteronormative. So queer studies uh, is a curriculum which focuses on queer concepts and expression, sociology, and everything. So it could be used politically, it could be used for education purposes, identification, and for all other cultural aspects. So each person has the right to decide what term they want to use in which context.
Thank you so much. Another thing is that, you were in IT, you were in the US, and you came back to India, and you've been a very strong activist since then, very well known. You've done a lot for
Thank
the
you.
LGBTQ community. I want to know that what inspired you to come back, and also what changes do you see over the years? Your journey with this activism, this journey of yours.
Yes, I was associated with volunteering for a group called Trikon in USA. I was on my H1B visa in an IT company, and I used to volunteer for a LGBT group called Trikon. And it is through them that I was able to overcome my, discomfort with my sexuality as a gay man. Got rid of the misconceptions that I had, become comfortable with who I was, and I started becoming initially an associate publisher for their quarterly magazine called Tricone, and I walked a couple of Pride walks in San Francisco. That gave me a lot of confidence. Of course, there were no such Pride walks in India then, but that was where I thought I had applied for my green card. But I thought, no, I need to go back, face the reality, and do something of the kind I experienced there. And that's why I came back, worked for a year or two in IT companies, gave it up, and decided to work full time on LGBT. Uh, it's been 25 years. This is, in fact, the 25th year. And yes, there are, uh, dramatic changes. The initial decade was very difficult, but things started changing from 2008, 8 9, when the Delhi High Court read down Section 377, which criminalized us before having same sex relationships. There was a downside to it because the Supreme Court reverted that judgment. But 2014, transgenders got their fundamental right of identity as transgenders. 2018, the Supreme Court struck down 377 to the extent that it criminalized same-sex relationships, which means we may not have all the rights, but we are no longer criminals. That was a huge step because companies wouldn't do anything for DI, diversity and inclusion initiatives, till legally it was an issue. So that part has changed. Medically, things have changed. I approached in 2016 the Indian Psychiatric Society and the World Psychiatric Association to give me in writing position statements on their take on homosexuality and sexual orientation. And we have their statements in writing stating that this is a normal variation of sexuality and gender. It is not an abnormality. It cannot be changed. And any such efforts to change somebody's sexual orientation or gender identity is detrimental to their mental health. So now the medical psychiatrists, psychologists are on board that this is not something that can be cured. We should not make any attempt, not an abnormality, and all we can do is help them become comfortable with who they are. So, medically, also, it is no longer a challenge. What continues to be a challenge is that we still need a lot of awareness in society, and acceptance of society is still lacking. That I think is a continued challenge over the years.
But Binduji, do you think it's improved from the time you started?
Oh,
Because
yes.
the acceptance levels are quite
Yes, I
better
can,
now.
would you like to have a couple of examples?
Yes, sir, please, please.
When I started, I didn't know of a single transgender who was working in a company or who applied for a government job openly as a transgender person because they had no identity and nobody would hire them. You know, you are a transgender person. I'm not going to hire you. What you may be qualified, but now we see that change. I know transgenders who are in IT companies. I know transgenders who have even applied for police constable post. I know one transgender called Vijaya, whom I'm a sort of mentor to, who became the first transgender in Maharashtra. She comes from a tribal district of Nandurbar, and she has become the first transgender forest officer in Maharashtra. She had also applied for the police constable post. I know transgenders who are studying in ILS Law College, Ferguson College, who openly as transgenders. And the colleges are proud to say that look, we are inclusive. We have openly trans persons studying with us, and we are making efforts to make sure that they so more inclusive. And I think yes, we still have a long way to go, but I am very happy that the kind of success stories I am seeing is very inspirational.
Right. So, generally there were only very few career options open for transgenders. Like they would either be begging on the streets or maybe sex workers or, for ceremonies, religious ceremonies. So it's good to know that they have so much more they can do and are being accepted.
Yes.
So that I think is a big step.
That's a big step.
That's a big step.
Because they did not have any other option.
Right.
Now you have many.
Right. Now, June is a Pride month.
Yes.
Right. So, you will be having a Pride walk, etc.
Yes.
So, this is, I believe, the 13th year of the Pride walk in Pune.
Yes.
And you were the one who started the first Pride walk.
Yes.
So, could you please tell us something about it and how it has grown and how the numbers have grown?
Thank you for that question. We started in 2011 and we were very scared whether the police would give us permission then because nobody ever had a organized Pride walk. I'm very happy to say that the police were very supportive. We did not face a single legal challenge. And the reason we wanted to have Pride Walk was a simple reason that the LGBT community has no place to be out and comfortable who they are. There were no spaces other than coming to a drop-in center. They had very few spaces to be proud of who they are in public. Drop-in center is an office NGO space where they can be comfortable with who they are. They don't have to hide about their sexuality, their gender. If they want to come cross-dressed, there will be cross dressers, there will be trans persons who would wear their clothes according to their gender, and nobody's going to judge them for who they are, how they dress, how they express themselves. But other than those very few closed spaces, there had no spaces to be proud of who they are, because the whole idea was that the society regards them, that their sexuality and gender is a stigma to be ashamed of, to be hidden, to be suppressed. And here we wanted to have a space where no, we are proud of ourselves, and whatever way you look at it, we are going to be proud about ourselves, and we are not going to be ashamed of who we are, and we are going to march on the street in public saying who we are. And the first pride walk had, I think, 93 or 96 participants. I organized it for the first 10 years, and then Anil Ukurande, Youth Charitable Trust, I've mentored him, and he is a sort of foster son. And now he organizes it on similar lines, and he has continued that tradition. And the 12th Pride Walk had almost 2,000 participants. So from 93 to 96 to 2,000, it's a huge
So
thing.
how many are you expecting this year?
Oh, around 2,000 plus.
Oh, that's
Yes.
that's fantastic. And when is this happening?
This is happening on the 8th of June, that is coming Sunday
Okay.
at 4:30 p.m. starting from Abhinav Chowk.
All right. Okay, that's good. Um, you also started the Advait Cure Film Festival,
Yes.
right? And what was your role in starting a film festival to promote the LGBTQ activities?
We started the film festival again because we wanted people to see themselves in a positive light on screen. The problem is that now things have changed, but when we started it, most of the films had very stereotypical portrayals of gay men or trans, and even now you see some changes, but still quite a lot. And so it added to their shame, it added to their self-hate. We wanted to have a chance where they are able to see some positive images, their expression out there as they are, as human beings and not as caricatures. And that was why what we tried to do. We did have it for a few years, but recently we have discontinued. The reason for it is that with the advent of ott, people have so easy access that the idea of going to a theater to watch an film, at least experimental films or LGBTQ films, I think they find it easier to watch it in private.
True, there's so much of content on OTT
Yes.
nowadays. Yeah, you've also authored books,
Yes.
and your novel Partner is actually considered a pioneering work in Marathi.
Yes.
So, could you just tell us a little bit about the book you've written?
Again, when I started work, we had very little written in the regional language, or for that matter, even in English for that matter. But I would give them books to read which were written in the US or UK, and people could not identify with the culture. And so they wanted something which was they could culturally relate to. And since more than 95% of them are not comfortable reading in English, they wanted something in Marathi. So that drove me to write a gay adolescent diary in a diary form about his feelings and experiences he has while growing up. And that was my first attempt at writing. And I'm happy to say that its third edition will come out in July.
Oh, that's good. So, you've authored how many books totally?
Oh, about 15 or so in English, Marathi, and one of my new books is interviews of gay couples, which will be out no later than September.
Okay, that's good. Also, if you could throw some light on your helpline that you have, a little bit about the dating apps that are there.
Yes, there are two issues that I need to mention. One is the helpline continues to work on Monday evenings. Most of the calls, there's been a change in the, you were asking me about the change that has happened. I'm getting a lot of calls of extortion on the helplines. Yes, because because there was no dating apps when I started my work, but now there are a lot of dating apps. People go online to find a partner. Quite a few gay men are, find a partner, go out, and then they get robbed. They're beaten up, assaulted, forced to part with their valuables, go to an ATM, withdraw money, or transfer cash online. There are those who are uh, forced to take off their clothes, and people make videos of them and threaten them to take it online if they report to the police. This is exponentially on the rise, and one of the things we are doing with the helpline is helping them legally, give them legal guidance as to how to approach the police. If the police do not accept the complaint, what do you do then, what's the next step to do, and so on and so forth. So I would like to state that the LGBT community needs to be very careful with the number of, no, the extortion cases that are happening. They need to be very careful when seeking out dates.
And is that one of the main things that you do in your Bindu Cure Rights Foundation that you
That is
formed?
one of the things I do.
Okay.
The other thing is that I provide technical support to the corporates who are into DI, the corporates who are into diversity and inclusion, to help them fine tune their policies to become LGBT inclusive. If they want to start on experimental basis to hire transgenders as interns or as employees, they need to have a lot of changes in their policies. Look at how their medical insurance coverage is going to be, whether they have a transgender washroom, whether they have policies that are inclusive and equal. And that's something they have never done before. So there's a lot of work that they need to do before they can. It's not like it's Pride Month, let's hire a couple of transgenders and we are off and running. That does not happen. It takes them 2 to 3 years to set all of this up, have quite a few sensitization workshops with the staff, because the staff needs to be comfortable. So it's a long haul, and I try to guide them on that.
But do you find a lot of companies willing to take
Not
on?
enough, but definitely enough to keep me busy.
Okay, that's good. Another thing, it's a misconception, I hope, and I'm sure, is that there's a view uh, amongst people that the boys who are maybe raped in childhood or sexually molested in childhood, they become gays. That's something that, I've heard people saying. Could you just throw some light on the truth behind this?
Yes, there are a few misconceptions about what makes a person
Correct.
gay. One of them is, of course, if they are molested as children by men, they become gay. There is no evidence to support that. A. B. If you just, my example is cannot be a generalized one, but still, let me give you my example. I have never been molested or abused as a child, and I'm gay. The second misconception is that if boys are dressed as girls at a young age, then they become feminine or become gay
Yes.
or transgender. There is no
There's no
evidence to
truth on
support
that.
that either. So these are people are trying to find reasons why a person becomes gay or why a person has a gender different from their anatomy. And frankly, science still does not know all the answers. In fact, the more science is trying to understand gender and sexuality, they are coming up more and more questions than answers.
I would also like to ask you, what advice would you give to the young LGBT community?
Uh, One, you are born as you are. It's not something you have asked for or cultivated or nurtured. So A, don't hate yourself for it. B, it is natural, accept it, because it takes a lot of emotional strength. People keep on fighting with themselves because they either think it is as abnormal or a disease or a sin, and they need to move away from these thoughts and accept them as like any other person. Two, uh, some of them are very eager to come out at a very early age. There are people who at age of 14 or 15 also try to come out, and I would advise them that they need to be patient, more patient. A, because if they are not adults, the there is possibility that people who are in adolescence can have a phase where they may have same-sex attraction, which could be a passing phase. So they need to be reasonably certain who they are before they are out as with that particular identity. And if they are out when they are adults, well educated and financially independent, it is easier for them to deal with rejection. If they continue to be dependent on someone who may not be accepting, then coping with multiple stressors, it can become very challenging. So being an adult, being comfortable with who they are, and becoming being financially independent is very crucial for them to decide their journey onwards.
And Binduji, do you think at some point in time soon same-sex marriages will be accepted legally in India?
The 2023 judgment has been a significant setback. Let me make it clear. The happy part is that The judgment made it clear that a transgender person can marry a man or a trans man, but they have not yet legalized marriage between two men or two women. And we expect eventually it will happen. I'm very sure that it will happen, but like 377, it took us 15, 17 years. We expect this one to be a decades long challenge.
And also, there are gay groups.
Yes.
Are there lesbian groups and intersex groups as
Yes,
well?
there are a couple of lesbian groups. I would rather say not lesbian groups, but they call themselves as LBT groups, because lesbians, bisexual women,
Okay.
and trans men.
Trans
So
men.
yes, so because they are very small in numbers, it may they try to be a group together as LBT groups. So
Okay.
yes, there are a couple of LBT groups. Unfortunately, they are not as out as they should be, because women, frankly, face far more challenges than cisgender gay men in coming out, because in a patriarchal construct,
Correct.
women
It's
do
not
have
accepted.
it's more
Yeah,
difficult
it's
for
more
them to come
difficult.
out as a sexual minority or a gender minority.
Okay. Binduji, anything else you think I've missed out you would throw light on?
Uh, uh, Thank you for inviting
A
me,
pleasure, as I
and
said, is
for those who are viewing this, you are welcome to join us. We encourage you to join us as community member or as allies, whether it be corporates, NGOs, individuals, families, friends, on the 8th of June at 4:30 p.m. At Pune's Abhinav Chowk, which is near Sarasbag. Thank you.
Thank you, Binduji. Thank you for joining us once again. And I wish you all the best. I hope your Pride March only grows more and more in number. And I wish you, all, the LGBT community, nothing but the best from all of us here. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
joining us.
much.
Thank you.
Yes.